Hi, Fems. I am Violette, Ayala, the founder of FemCity, and you're joining me for our Wednesday Business for Your Soul series. We actually record this for our podcast, but we actually air this live through Facebook and on YouTube and in our Facebook group for members only. I am so excited to introduce to you my guest for today. She recently taught a class for our members, and it was so powerful that our members continued to do their homework, even surpassing the deadline she gave them. They were really impacted in such a great way because she really helped them. And I think it's a great topic that we're going to talk about today because so many of us are pivoting in business, whether you have been let go or you're furloughed or you don't really know where things are going to be in the next couple of weeks. Our intention today is to bring you very good advice with action plans to help you so that you can actually step forward and attract the clients that you need. I just want to go ahead and just officially introduce her, Marina Stamos. She is not related to John Stamos. She told me that the other day. I thought it was the funniest thing. But Marina, welcome. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so some of the women that are listening today or watching today may not know you, perhaps they didn't take that class that you offered. And so could you share a little bit about your background? And I think it's actually a beautiful journey as well of where you were and where you are now. Can you share a little bit about your background so they can kind of connect with your journey as well?
Sure. So where I am right now is to give a context of the journey is, so now I am a women's business coach. I work with everyone, of course, but somehow organically I've ended up working primarily with women and really helping them, honestly, without no other way to say it, help them make money, right? They're already good at what they do. I work with tons of people who are super talented, credentialed, powerful change makers, badass ladies, accountants, healers, doctors, lawyers, book authors, HR, name it, health coaches. And they're great at what they do. But when they come face to face with the business process and the bitter realization that they have to be good at a whole nother set of things, which is marketing and sales, everything often comes to a crashing halt. And I certainly understand that. So how did I get to this point? Many years ago, I've always been an entrepreneur of some sort, from the little kid who always had the lemonade stand and the kid who was shoveling. But I mean, I'm not going to go back that far, but through real estate investment. And then also I had this heart to be a journalist. And that's what I did for many years, print and then television journalism. And in that time, I was writing and producing television news program. And in that time is when I really cut my teeth on what is it that actually makes certain ideas and people and concepts really break through the noise in people's heads. And as I did that, I found I had this kind of natural talent for it. And when I would talk to people about maybe an idea I had for how they could break through the noise, they would start making money. And then I was like, okay. So I was running a PR and communications company for a number of years. And then it was all one-off. And then at some point, I kind of just needed to do something new, right? I just wanted a new thing. And then I had not even heard of coaching. But I kind of accidentally encountered coaching and found that it was a way to productize what I do. And everybody who's watching, I don't care what you do, every one of you has a way to differently productize and monetize your life experience. No question, for sure. They can. Boy, I hear that sound in the background from your right. Are you okay?
Did she start? So it's so funny because when we were in the green room, I told Marina, I said I have these really big headsets on because my neighbor randomly starts working out outside, like with blasting reggaeton music. But
that's amazing. Yeah, no, it came through. I literally just stopped because I'm thinking, is my thing?
No, it's my end.
No, it's all good. So
yeah, I think
coaching. I'm sorry, just briefly, is that coaching allows people to take more control of the learning process, and it makes it kind of more affordable and more accessible to the clients. So here I am.
And I think your unique blend, like when I get to know people, when I interview people, I always love to think about what their superhero talent is. And I think for myself, when I first got to know you, that superhero talent for me was that ability that you brought all the skill from your past, careers and brands and activities and engagement and all the stuff that you did, you really, it's like it's full circle, because you have this great gift of helping people pull out their message so they stand out. Because that, when you taught that class last week, it feels like weeks ago, but it was only last week. I thought that was so amazing that you just, because you were in that world for so long and in the PR world, that you're really able to help them craft that signature way of getting people to ask more questions about their brand. And that leads me into so the class that Marina led for us a couple of weeks ago, or last week, was all about how to attract the ideal client within 1 minute. And she really helped our members craft, in essence, what you would consider their elevator pitch, right? So what we think about, like, what's that one sentence? What's that one paragraph that really describes what you do, so that engages someone and they bite, right? They say, my gosh, tell me more. I have to have this in my life. So how did that come about? Because I believe that's and again, I'm looking at your superhero talents. I believe that is something that really makes a huge difference in the lives of those that you train, all that experience. How did you get to that point of creating that program?
It was like so many things, kind of accidental and organic. So invariably when people would come to me, and it didn't matter if they were really early on, maybe had only made a couple of $100, or they're already making, and I'm not saying this, I'm not exaggerating, already making on sitting on top of a $40 million company, or an $80 million company, or a $120 million company. I think that's the highest level company I've worked for, or anywhere in between. If they've hit some kind of roadblock, when they start to tell me what they do, it is so confusing. It is so convoluted. It's not clear what they're selling. It's not clear or why anyone would care. And it's a very natural place to be. And I share the story all the time of how about 5 years ago, even though, and this was after I was already a news producer, when I started to really say, now I have to do for me what I do for others, so I can grow my business more intentionally, as opposed to just having like the accidental client. And I'll encourage the viewers to ask themselves, do you find yourselves in kind of accidental client mode, where you don't really quite know when that next client is coming, or it's just one here and then 2 months later another one? It's because that's really kind of the alarm that it's time to learn how to take control of your business, and meaning learn how to talk about what you do in a more kind of powerful way. And it's funny because I was actually giving my first talk about what I do. And have you ever been in a situation, Violette, when you watch somebody giving a talk? Well, sometimes they're really amazing. The people are so amazing. Everyone's leaning in, and then they run to the back of the room to meet with them to get more, right? That's great, right? And then the other kind of person who it's like a slow moving train wreck, and you kind of feel bad for them. You can't make eye contact with them, and you're hoping the fire alarm goes off so that everyone can just have a reason to disperse. Well, I always joke that the worst instance of that in human history happened here in Philadelphia around 5 years ago. And it was me, the first time I was talking about what I did in a kind of intentional way. And I was all over the place. I actually had to invest $25,000 in a me to do me.
Right.
So that's one lesson. If you're stuck, get help. Okay. And in doing that, I was able to, I just realized that there's short attention spans. People make the mistake of going into marketing language and processy language. And I'll even say, not to disagree, but just to give a little nuance. What I do is a cousin of the elevator pitch.
Okay.
It is more of a, when you have only 1 minute to do your business, you're forced to reconcile with, wait a minute, what the heck do I sell? And what am I having people do at the end? Yeah. Why is it that I can pour my heart out and then it's just crickets at the end? And that's what the 1 minute talk really, in a sense, forces you to reconcile with and fix.
Yeah, I'm nodding so much because I remember when we first started FemCity, our program, and we still do this in our larger communities, like our flagships, that part of the pitch was that you had to do a 30-second pitch about who you are, what you do, what you're passionate about, because I had to kind of break it down into getting them to gear towards that kind of conversation versus like, so when I was 2 years old,
Right.
my parents, I lived in Miami. And so we used to do that. And I remember one day, this woman came up to me, and it was one of our biggest FemCity Miami events. It was actually one of the reasons why I stopped having them so big and kind of started going smaller, was because it was so loud and so chaotic. She said to me, Violet, that moment when you asked us to do our 30-second pitch, it was for the first time she didn't know what she really did. And when she realized it, because they're all preparing until it's your turn, you're going in your mind like, what am I going to say? What am I going to pitch? Like, how do I phrase what I do? What do I do? And she said she realized at that time that she actually didn't like what she was doing at the time. So that stress that we used to put on them, and I think a lot of our cities still do that format, is it was so intentional, because if you can't capture it, we were doing 30 seconds, a minute is way better. If you can't capture it, it's you can't. You have to be able to convey what you do so that you don't give everything away, but it gives someone and there's power in that also for them to say, you know what, tell me more. And I think that's what I love so much when you were teaching our members the other day, is that you gave them the tools to have them work on the cousin of the elevator pitch and make it so that it was something that felt authentic to them. It resonated with the passion that they have in serving others. And it also it stood out from the noise of, like you were saying, you used an example, like, I'm a business coach. Like, when you were doing the example last week, I thought that was great, because you used your before, how you would go into that. And then you used kind of what you use now. So so let's say someone's watching right now and they're like, that's me. And by the way, that's all of us, right? Like, I don't think any of us went to Wharton Business School. We didn't take classes on how to create this. We weren't, like a lot of our members, especially.
They don't teach us in business school.
They don't teach. I mean, how are you going to learn this stuff? And I have a lot of friends that are physicians and dentists and lawyers. And it doesn't matter if you're a yoga instructor, if you're a hair salon owner, like, this is something that there's really no class in this. How do you, if you are looking at crafting this, what are some tools and tips that you can share with them? Because now is the time that a lot of them are working on this right now, right? Business is a little bit slower. They have to pivot. They have to figure out what to do. Sales are slow. What can they start doing right now to really start crafting a way that they can attract the ideal client?
If, with your permission, what I'd like to do is a bit of a mindset thing, because so many things in this process are first a mindset kind of check. There's so often right beneath the surface is, again, as I mentioned earlier, this crushing, brutal blow to the soul to realize, I thought it was, I have all this debt for medical school, or I have all this, and it's not enough. I still have to learn so many other things. I have to sell. Didn't I go to X school to not be a salesperson? So I would ask, first is that we have to check ourselves to see, do we have any condescension or any kind of ego kind of inner conflict with the fact that now we are also salespeople, right? Excellent. And it is so powerful. And also something funny that came up. So my husband and son are on a camping trip. Mama doesn't do camping. That's what they do. Like, when I'm vacationing, I'm going up the luxury ladder, not down the luxury ladder. Anyway, so they're there and they're having their fun. And they sent me a picture of my son holding a box of cookies, and it was like in a regular kind of white, the typical kind of white box that cookies would come in, and then clearly someone stamped that they just took from, and they just stamped and says the Fly By Night Cookie Company. And then my husband texted me and said, oh, this is this really cute place. It's in upstate New York, and you go in and it's one room store that the whole place is refrigerated. There's 20 jars of cookies, and it's an honor system. You just take what you want and you leave your money. And I remember thinking, on some level, isn't that what we all wish?
Exactly.
We just do our thing and just focus on making the most delicious cookie or healing people or whatever it is that we do. And then we just put it in a little box, put a little stamp on it, and other people come and take it from it, right? Isn't that And then when we realized, holy crap, I've got to do this stuff. So
yeah. I'm glad you added that too, because a lot of times I see some of our members have anxiety even before getting to this point, because they're filled with so much, like they have so much to do, and perhaps they are in a little debt. They haven't had the money come through. So perhaps they're in that financial like poverty mindset where they're at the bottom, mindset wise. So I'm so glad that you're sharing this, because you're absolutely right. The mindset has to be there in order for you to actually get to that point where you can get out of it.
Exactly. So the quick only, because we only have so much time and I don't want to drag on. One is I invite you to really just come to grips with the fact you're just going to have to clear yourself of that resistance, because it will keep you stuck. It will keep you broke. It will keep you in maxed out credit card debt, and you can be making all kinds of money. And again, I've worked with people and I've been there.
Yeah.
I can also tell you, as I sit here, it's an out of body experience for me sometimes to hear me talking about sales, the thing that I grew up having a lot of like, sales, right? And here I am, not only I'm teaching it. So we have to remember, why did we get into business? We get into business to make money. There's nothing wrong with saying that. You have to have an emotional attachment to making money in business. That has to be the why of business. It can't be, well, I want to do this. No, what you want to do is the how. What the why has to be to run a profitable business, not an expensive hobby, right? And if you think that, I'm going to do some truth bombing here. If you think that being a salesperson is beneath you, here's what's beneath you. Being in deferment on your student loan, that's beneath you. Thinking, oh my God, I should have married that guy or that guy, because now my life would be so much better. Oh, I better be nice to that B word, because when I go belly up, I'm going to have to make sure we're friends, so she'll let me live in her basement. I mean, really, you have to kind of come to grips with that. And realize that it's not beneath you to be a salesperson. It's just a part. When I work with people who, no one loves to do marketing and sales, I'm not saying, but the people who are just like, okay, fine, I got to learn it. That's fine. Then all of a sudden they're living the dream. You're
really saying to us that if you're in business for yourself, or you're carrying a brand, maybe you work for an entity that you have your own, like you're an independent contractor, what you're really saying is that you need to wake up and start getting really comfortable in the space, because that's the truth. You're going to have to do it. Right? Is that what?
Yeah, again. And then because usually when you clear that block, suddenly your 1 minute or your elevator or your 30-second, suddenly you are in a sense more able to start to build that, because you're not in denial or resistance or kind of avoidance about the asking part. So I've gone so in so many different directions that I almost forgot what the original question was. I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
No, don't worry. And I was going to say, you know what? I also I think it's really important for women that are watching this is that, if you're not really comfortable in sales or marketing or pitching or sharing your elevator pitch or the cousin of the elevator pitch, it also comes through in your energy. Like, oh, well, what do I do? Well, I do this thing. Yes. And it's like, it's really, I just started. So I just started, and I don't really, and so if you start, so it's really important that when you do craft that, and I don't know if whether to call it a pitch or an elevator pitch or what you do or your why or whatever.
I'll call it a talk. And I really am intentional about that. And the reason I say that is the elevator pitch usually is truly in a sense, an elevator pitch is something that you're kind of prompted to give in a certain situation. What I'm saying is, as a lead generation method for literally anybody, I mean, literally name any profession, speaking. In other words, speaking is absolutely, the algorithm never changes. It doesn't involve complicated and costly technologies. And it's people are buying from people. Like they want to buy from the person, and they don't care about your degree first. They want to know, do they trust you? Right. Do they like you? And telling a story. So to give an example for anyone, so maybe some people will be listening to this who were on the training before. So you will hear it again, but for people who didn't, to kind of give an example, what does that really mean? The sample that I gave is of a weight loss coach, and her name is Jane. And she comes into a 1 minute talk environment, and she simply says, I'm Jane. And 5 years ago, I was 100 pounds overweight. I tried everything. I lost all hope. My health was at risk and I lost all hope. Now, after my 7-step reset, I'm at my ideal weight. I fit into my skinny jeans and I made peace with food in a way I didn't think was possible. And that's just the beginning. We know what she does. She has not gone into any kind of pitch. The defenses of the audience aren't going up. They're kind of like, the ones who are destined to work with her are thinking, yeah, that sounds like me. Yeah, that sounds like me. Yes, yes, yes. Now, the other way that people handle this, and this is how classically people will come into training with me, they will start it like, I'll say, okay, give me an example of how you would talk about what you do. And they'll say, do you eat to live or do you live to eat? Do you think that losing weight is about counting carbs? Because it's really not about counting carbs. It's about putting yourself first. And they're going right into the process. They're going to what in their mind is the true moment of transformation. And it is a total fail.
Right. Yeah. That's such a great analogy. I mean, that's such a great example because I was that person too. I mean, I think we all were because we were just all those people like just going right into it and going on and on. And so if there's someone who's listening right now and say, okay, I'm going to work on it. I feel comfortable already with sales. I understand I have to do it. It is what it is. Where do they start to start tweaking their existing talk or start crafting their new talk? Like, where would they even begin? What's a good format that they could start getting that going?
First of all, overwhelmingly, we have our own story. You have to start with, they say use a story, and it's true. Think of the rock bottom moment. No, sorry, back up. Think of your ideal niche, the one who's actually spending on you. Think of their 4 a.m. panic. Is it around health? And I'll call weight health. Mm-hmm. Is it around love or relationships? Is it around money? Those are the biggest things. And then secondarily, it can be just around people who feel like they've lost direction. They've lost sense of what their higher purpose in life is, right? So attach what you do, the outcomes that you bring to people's lives to one of those 4 things. That is really key. That is something that a lot of people fight and resist, or at least people who really aren't making the money they should. They resist that. Well, I help a lot of people and I don't want a niche and I don't want You have to because people spend money for help in those areas. Okay, so once you've decided, let's say I help people with their health. Let's use weight. Then think about your rock bottom moment. Presumably you've had your own, the person who's doing this has had their own weight loss journey. What was your rock bottom moment, right? And then what's your comeback? And also notice how, and set the intention to be very simple in your languaging, very conversational, and for God's sake, don't start tossing in, well, now after my abracadabra system, or something, I say 7-step reset for Jane because it's so, everyone gets what a 7-step reset is. That's not
right.
So, and then there's another key point. Think about, and this, I'll leave people with this. I don't want to overwhelm people.
Sure.
Everybody can think about themselves or their potential client and say, there's ostensibly 2 problems that anyone comes to you with. The actual thing that they want, right? The thing that's missing from their lives. And then what's really holding them back from getting it. For example, with a weight loss coach, they're dealing with people who their problem is they're not losing weight. And that's what they want. They want to lose weight. What's really the problem? Cravings. For many, not everyone is dealing with cravings, but let's just say that's a very common one. And this constant battle with food and this sense of hopelessness against the addiction to food. With those 2 things in mind, address those 2 specifically as soon as you start talking. So what does Jane do? Again, to operationalize this, she says, I'm at my ideal weight. I fit into my skinny jeans and, wait for it, I feel at peace with food in a way I didn't think was possible. That statement, feeling at peace with food plus losing the weight, that's where I challenge you all to really think about how can you talk about what you do in that way. Mm-hmm. The equivalent, say, for me as a business coach, the thing that they want is money. The thing that's holding them back overwhelmingly is overwhelm, confusion, not knowing, there's a pop-ups you got to do, blogging and podcasting, what do I do? nothing seems to be working. Days are turning into months and turning into years and turning into a lifetime where I'm never really landing. What's wrong? Yeah. So
I was going to add another thing that I learned from you last time that you taught was some of our members were using acronyms that no one knew about. And I think another really great point is that when you're crafting your talk, what you shared last time, I know there's not a lot of time for you to like dive in even deeper like you did last week, but is to meet people where they're at, like use the words that really resonate with them. That was a huge thing, that a lot of them are coming up with these, fancy words. And so the reality is like, you have to speak with the words that resonate with that person you're talking to, because they may not understand other terminology or, fancier words like, medical terms or whatever. So I loved that tip also, because I see that so much where they're like, I create patent, blah, 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 blah. And people are like, what? What is that? Like, how does that impact? How is that in my world? How does that help me? So I loved that you shared that tip last week also. I keep going to last week.
Yeah, it's fine. I know. And tell me, but I can barely tell what day of the week it is.
Exactly.
I'll give an example from a couple of weeks ago. I had done a training just like that. And people, we went around the room and one lady said, they were saying what they're doing. She's already actually quite a successful life coach and health guru. And she said, successful, meaning she makes like 20, 30,000 a month. And she said, I do EFT. I tell people what their triggers are. And then I said, and you'd say now, and she even knew that she's like, even though I'm making this, I know I can be making so much more, and I keep getting negative feedback. So can you give me some feedback on what I do? And so she said that. And I said, I'm going to come back to you. Here's some tips. We went around the room again, came back to her, and she did exactly the same thing. Said, I'm an EFT specialist, or I help people understand their triggers. Give me a moment in your life when you experienced that. What was your rock bottom moment? And then she kind of like looked off in the distance, and then she said, okay, I remember how my daughter was looking at me. I'll never forget the look in her face of fear as I was yelling and yelling and yelling. I said, stop. And it was funny because you could even see in the faces of the people in the Zoom, where before, as she was talking, everyone's kind of like, looking at their, doing their lipstick and checking their cell phone. And there's like lots of, and then as soon as she said that, everyone went like this.
Yeah. It's the attention grabber.
I said, there's your next level.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, again, I go back to your experience. I think it's just perfect for you to be doing this and helping those, because you understand how it sounds like from the audience perspective. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I think that's just I'm so happy that you're doing this for others. So we are about out of time. I know you and I know there, you could only touch upon the top of this topic. There's so much. I know you're very much more engaging and interactive when you're leading this. So I'm so grateful that you shared these tips and this inspiration. I'm hoping that those that are listening and watching will start drafting and crafting and editing and checking the words that they're using, and really kind of starting to tweak that, because it can make a huge difference with the money that you put in your pocket. How can people find you if they're watching and listening and want to learn more? How can they go ahead and connect with you?
Well, the first thing I just dropped in the chat, they can get actually a free deluxe guide to creating their own 1-minute talk. And I'd also call out to them that the last page is a 1-minute virtual networking chat that is totally relevant to what we're doing right now, that I am using profitably right now. And copy paste it and make it your own. So I don't know, can this be seen? I just dropped it.
Just send it to me. Yeah, just send it to me and I'll add it to the podcast link.
That said, you can also just connect with me on Facebook. So, or Marina Stamos. I think there are 3. I think I'm Marina Stamos 3.
And you can find Marina on our FemCity website. So if you go to Teachers and Speakers, Marina is featured as one of our teachers and speakers. So you can always find her there as well. If you're driving and you can't, you don't remember, just head over that way. And her whole link is there to, I think, your LinkedIn profile.
Okay, yes. So again, you can go Marina Stamos Business Coaching, or private message me and I can send you the link for the guide. You can also connect with me if you're thinking, I need help. I know I need this kind of next level help for my business. I can't keep waiting for my ship to come in. We can get on a complimentary strategy call about how to attract ideal clients in 1 minute and really completely up-level your business. Again, the link will be part of that, what I just dropped.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marina. This was amazing. And we want to hear from you guys. So if you are working on it, feel free to tag Marina or myself. We'd love to see what you come up with, and stay in touch. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys back next week.
Thank you.